She's the track too tough to tame. She's the lady in black. She is Darlington, and she is waiting for us this weekend for another exciting NASCAR race. Break it all down with us on the back road coming up right now.
It's a non-points race, but it is a short race. Checkered flag. That's all this race is.
Tame from the States.
Happy Thursday, folks. You are locked into the Back Road. It's In Between Media's fantasy NASCAR and NASCAR betting show. As you know, we're here every Thursday, and we're glad you decided to join us again this week as we head to the Lady in Black for Throwback Weekend for Darlington. The usual cast of characters here: Elliot Hicks, Seth Woolcock, Rod Villagomez. Boys, this is going to be a fun one tonight.
Oh, I wanted to come in all calm and composed because I always come in, I always bring the energy. It's like, I'm calm, I'm composed. And then I remembered it was Throwback Weekend. And I absolutely got up, baby. I got the old Jimmy Stewart Museum mug, the oldest mug I could find in the house. The old Mike Vick Ultimate Madden Cheat Code jersey on, and a little Drive for Hunger Jeff Gordon, baby. Let's go. So I'm ready to rock and roll. The vibes are high over here, boys.
Yeah, like I said, I'm always looking forward to this weekend. It's so much fun to watch the throwback cars roll around this track and then just, pay tribute to some of the better drivers that we remember watching as kids. And oh, yeah, it's Darlington, too, by the way, which is a track that's always entertaining to watch. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to this weekend for sure.
First, though, let's take a look back at how we did for Kansas in the rear view.
Oh.
Seth, did I cut you off a little early there? Did you have something else to add, or you were just disappointed at our Kansas car?
Yeah, I just didn't want to go back to Kansas, man. I was looking forward to Darlington, but, you got to take your L sometime, right, bud?
Yeah, I suppose so. So before we get into the normal bets, I mentioned earlier in the year that normally I don't really bet NASCAR. There was kind of some it was a little iffy with my professional career, whether I could, working in sports, what sports can you bet on? I definitely can bet on NASCAR. I threw out my first betting card in more than 2 years. I didn't really throw anything super consistent out there. Went mostly for some long shots. Only threw a little sprinkling on there. Won a Bubba Wallace group bet, but that was about it. Wasn't the best weekend for me, and was not the best weekend across the board for us here at the Backroad side.
Listen, man, sometimes, again, we say it, you can put in the research, you can find the betting edge, and it just doesn't come to fruition. Last week, I felt good about that 40-1 we jumped on Ty Gibbs. By the time the green flag dropped, that was down to 11-1, 13-1 some places. He looked like a top 5 car all week, man. And it, unfortunately gets involved there, has to go get checked out. Chris Bell, same thing. Like, we were on the Toyotas heavy, and we just weren't on Denny Hamlin. We should have been on Denny Hamlin. So I will take that a little bit on the chest. But yeah, man, not too well. Hit 2 bets last week out of our card of 6. So we're licking the wounds a little bit. Rod, how about yourself, my friend?
Not good, Seth. Not good. No, listen, we were kind of victims of attrition. We were victims of some crazy, funky stuff happening on the field. I mean, we talked about it before we even got going. It's like, as a race, that was an entertaining race. Like, there was nothing wrong with that race. It was always in contention. There was always something happening. Like, there wasn't somebody that pulled away to a 25-second lead and just sat there all day long. I mean, the fights were there up and down the track. Just unfortunately, from a betting aspect, a lot of the guys that you bet on got caught up in track. I mean, my biggest thing was Kyle Busch. I had him as a top 3 car.
Yeah.
He was not a top 3 car at the end of the day. In fact, he was a bottom 3 car. So, and kind of through no fault of his own, it was just a weird thing that he got into the I can't remember right now because I'm blocking it out of my memory, but I know he got into it with somebody, and that was about the last you ever saw of Kyle Busch after that.
Yeah, he and Ross were yelling at each other a little bit, and then Rowdy, I forget if it was a speeding penalty or something, put him back, and he was just never recovered.
Yeah, that was a disappointment.
And I'll say this, like, we always know Kansas is going to be interesting because of the multiple lanes at that track. However, it really did feel like a super speedway with some of the carnage we are seeing. Just some of the unpredictable ability as well. The loose tires for Briscoe and for Cindric. Really weird stuff overall. And I will say, though, boys, like, NASCAR's back on the map a little bit. A lot more eyes, I bet, are going to be tuned in this weekend after that fight on pit road, which, love it or hate it, man, Noah Gracing and Ross Chastain, they're good for this sport, man, because they're high energy guys and they like to, if they got to throw a right hook, they got to throw a right hook. So I'm excited as hell to see what happens at Darlington. I know Dee in the chat as well. She's digging the throwback apparel. We appreciate you, Dee. We appreciate all the NASCAR and the IBT family tuning in tonight. If you guys are new to the channel, please give this video a thumbs up, subscribe if you want to come back and hang out with us again. Elliot, any final thoughts as we wrap this bow, though, on Kansas and move to Darlington?
Well, it was fun to see Noah Gragson finally go after Chastain. He said it himself. Nobody goes after him. Chase Elliott made a little comment, should go over there and beat his ass. And he did his best. Ross landed the only punch before it was broken up, unfortunately, for Noah and his bowl cut. But hey, we'll move forward, and Noah will get him next time, I'm sure. Okay, let's move forward from not-so-great Kansas and move on to a fun Darlington Horizon forecast.
Hey, Michael, it was only 20% chance of rain. I think we got all 20.
So we head to Darlington, South Carolina this weekend. Of course, it's the Lady in Black. It is the track Too Tough to Tame. Most drivers are going to have those stripes on the side of their cars by the end of it. Track is 1.366 miles because turns 1 and 2 are a little bit wider than turns 3 and 4. I forget if it was when they built it, there was a lake or some farmland or something off the distance.
A pond that they had to build around.
Right, yeah. A pond that they had to kind of shorten it in a little bit. So it's a little weird shape. So that makes some of the comparisons a little more interesting than they normally would be, Seth.
Yeah, and that's the discussion here. This is obviously a very unique track. You just touched on it because of some pond. We have some fuckity going on. However, this is still a high tire wear intermediate track, and we do have some comps. The best, in my opinion, being Auto Club from this season, 2023. We can also look back at the 2 Darlington races, the Southern 500, of course, being in the fall, and then Homestead and Auto Club of last season as well. So that's kind of where we're comping this to. A couple of trends I think we should know as well. Winning has come from the top 10%. Or top 10 drivers over 80% of the time at this track. So you're going to want guys who, once again, qualify well. That's even more amplified here with this new package. Then 3 of the last 4 winners coming from that top 4. That was via Derek Yoder over there on the NASCAR betting preview show last night. And then 7 of 12 have been Toyota as well. So it looks like another heavy Yoder week for the trends here. Rod, how do you feel about that? Do you see any advantage in manufacturer as we enter?
Yeah, if you look, Chevy has got a very long span in between wins on this. Eric Jones, obviously the last one last fall, but you got to go.
Hendrick hadn't won here since like 2012.
Which is surprising as all get out, right? For as much as Hendrick owns just about every single track out there. Yeah, I mean, 2015 was the last time a Chevy won before that long stretch before Eric Jones did it. So, I mean, do you think Eric Jones cracked the code for all the Chevys? I don't know. We've seen some strength out of Toyota this year. Obviously, a lot of the bets that I've got this year, and in fact, the DFS suggestions that I have for this race are pretty much heavy Toyota because I feel like they're going to have this track down like they always have, with a little bit of Ford sprinkled in. But I mean, there again, you can't count out the Chevys because it is a good crop of Chevys. But yeah, I mean, as far as where I'm putting most of my trust, it's definitely in the Toyota camp this week.
Yeah, let's keep in mind as well, we're just over 400 miles as we head into Sunday. Stagers broken up very weirdly, 90, 185, 90, 185, and 293. That's the lap numbers for those. So keep that in mind as well. Practice qualifying, we'll see that Saturday morning. If you're invested in that at all, I highly recommend tune in, get some more data for that. Boys, I think we've covered everything, though, that I'm looking at. Rod, anything else that you can add that from a gambling perspective, DFS perspective, we should be hanging our hats on?
No, I mean, again, really, if you're going to do research the Darlington. I mean, I know you said that there's some comp tracks with high tire wear and all that stuff, but I mean, the complexity of this track by itself it grabs even the most experienced drivers by the
Thank you,
balls.
yes.
And he could be a great 1.5 mile driver, but that 1.3 track is not like any other track that's out there. So lean heavy on what you've seen in the past as far as Darlington's concerned.
All right. All right. Let's break it down a little bit further, guys, in tire tiers.
Well, I agree. We should be heavy on the Toyotas, even though last year, remember in the spring race, it was a Chevy and a Ford battling it out for the win there when Logano moved William Byron out of the way. The favorites, Kyle Larson is your favorite on DraftKings this week at 10,900. Then you have Hamlin, Truex, William Byron, Kyle Busch, your top 5 for the week. Rod, where do you want to start out here for our driver A's?
I think you got to put out the 11 out there. I really think that that's where you got to start. Denny Hamlin, I know one of the more expensive drivers on the board, but I mean, this guy has the most wins of all active drivers right now with 4, 12 top 5s, 16 top 10s, and 21 starts. Like, the dude literally knows how to get around this track. He has led 792 laps on this track, which is the third most of all active drivers. And for DFS purposes, you're looking at laps led, you're looking at finishing position. So if you think that Denny Hamlin's going to finish inside the top 5, lead some laps along the way, I mean, he's hot off of a win. It's difficult now to go back to back, obviously. But we saw Kevin Harvick do it last year, go back to back after not winning for a while. So nothing is really stopping, I think, Denny from being able to do that. And, like I said, with the string of top 5 finishes, you got to go back. In fact, last 2012 in the spring, he finished 21st, which is his worst finish out of the last. You got to go back to 2020, the spring of 2020 for that. So, I mean, again, he's been consistently good on this track. I think he's going to continue to do it, and he's got to be the first driver in this tier.
I'm going to keep rolling with it. Yeah, that's not bad. I'm going to keep rolling on the Joe Gibbs Racing train and put MTJ up here in tier number 8. If this was him last year when he wasn't able to get a win, I'd be a little more hesitant to do this. He's got the win under his belt this year. He's run well at Darlington. He's had some trouble more often than not in recent years out front at Darlington. But I think this is the year they finally make it through the attrition and get another W at the Lady in Black.
Yeah, I'm going to shift it up here. I'm going to go Chevy. I'm going to go with Kyle Busch. I mean, guy was a force in the Southern 500 last season, and engine issues blew him up, didn't get back into the race, and fastest medium lap in that race by more than 1/10 of a second. That was via auto racing analytics. He was going to run away, and no one was catching him last season. I think he's back for redemption this week, and a little bit of a discount as well. 10-3 or 10-1, you're getting Kyle Busch. So I'm going to be heavy rowdy this week, boys.
Yeah, I can't complain with you there. I mean, again, among the way that he shakes out on this track, he is with 22 starts, 13 top 10s, 6 top 5s. He does have a win. He actually is the he leads the active drivers in laps led on this track at 899. So most certainly somebody you want to consider in DFS for sure. And I love the Truex play, by the way, too. I think it's a sneaky play. I think people still don't necessarily buy into the fact that he's as good as he is. So I'll jump on that one. All right, guys, I'm going to go with my first Ford, and I'm going to take Joey Logano. I know it's not the sexiest of picks because Joey Logano has been like a complete and total yo-yo lately, but at 9,000, I think this is a steal for this tier. At Darlington, 18 races, 1 win, 6 top 5s, 10 top 10s, 293 laps led. Not the most outstanding of numbers when we compare it to what we've been talked about before. But you got to look at his last couple of finishes here. He had an 8th place finish in 2021. He won in this race last year, and then 4th place after starting from the pole in the fall. So 3 solid top 10 finishes in a row for Joey Logano. Now, of course, like I said, this season's been a mixed bag of results for Joey. But all it takes is for these veteran drivers to just find that track where they like and feel comfortable with. And I think this is one of those. Obviously, last week at Kansas, finishing 6th. So pretty good from there. A 10th place finish at Fontana if you want to go back and comp that. So not bad for Joey this season on some of those intermediate tracks.
I'm kicking myself for not playing Joey. He was at such a fair price last week, and he didn't have the best rep at Kansas. So like I kind of faded him a little bit, and I'm kind of kicking myself. So I like that you show him a little respect here, Rod. I like it.
Not bad. With Kyle Busch, he doesn't have the throwback scheme. Joey Logano does. I don't know if he had some mojo. And I realized here in my hastiness of making the tier maker a little later than I wanted, I did not add the number of the guy I'm picking next, which is Chase Elliott. I had grabbed a couple throwback numbers. I grabbed the Casey Kane number 9, the Casey Kane Bill Elliott style number 9 to put on here, like is on Chase's car this week, and the picture didn't show up here. But Chase Elliott's an obvious enough tier A guy most of the time that we can just kind of assume we throw him in there. 9,600, averaging almost 40 DraftKings points. I think Chase tier A. He's fully back from that leg injury. It's no longer a concern for me. And I think the 9 car getting that win to get into the playoffs is coming sooner rather than later.
Yeah, man, this is one that like you look at Chase's driver history here, and it is a little shaky. It's one of his worst tracks, and it's kind of hard to believe. He does have a top 5 here last season, which gave me a little bit of hope.
When Kyle Busch dumped him in the spring of 2020 as well.
Yes,
First race. I think it was the second race back from COVID. Not
COVID. Yes, correct. Yeah. So like it does give you hope, but he always has just had a little bit of bad luck here as well. So yeah, I don't mind the number 9. I like playing Tyler Reddick at that price tag of 9,900. That's who I'm going here with. I know Tyler Reddick at times he's been hit or miss this season. However, he and Logano are the only drivers last season with top 5s in both of these races, second and third for Reddick. And let's be honest, boys, like this is one of those tracks that just suits Tyler Reddick's drive up towards the wall, get a little ballsy, don't take your foot off the pedal. And that's what I think we're going to see out of Tyler Reddick this week. I think he's going to push the pace. I like him a lot this week. And for that price tag, I want to build around him and Kyle Busch. That's how I'm going to build most of my lineups, targeting those guys. And again, trying to miss that top 4 or 5 guys up closer to the 1,100 mark.
Are you really leaving this next guy for me? I mean, honestly, I was hoping maybe one of you guys would bring him up so it wouldn't be like me bringing him up every single week. Elliot, you know where to move that cursor. Find that number 4 car, throw him up there. It's Kevin Harvick. I swear to God, you guys leave him for me.
We do.
I mean, look, if I got to keep making cases for Kevin Harvick, then I don't even know what to do. He had a string of like a gazillion, and I know that's the most technical that I can get. Top 10 finishes in a row, broken last fall when his exhaust busted and he finished 33 at this race. But before that, he had finished inside the top 10 going back to 2013 in the spring race there. I mean,
that's good to know. I did not know that.
Yeah, 2013 started a string of a 5th place. He won 5th, 2nd, 9th, 4th, 4th, 1st, 3rd, 1st, 6th, 5th, 4th.
Wow. Okay.
So 33rd was his worst finish in almost 10 years. So, I mean, Kevin Harvick at $8,800 this week. Come on. I think the books are looking at what had been happening lately with Kevin Harvick, just not being able to find what he had, but he owns this track. I mean, if it weren't up for the exhaust last season, who knows what we'd have seen him finish. So give me Harvick as a tier A driver and at the price, that's a steal.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's a good price for tier A there. I'm going to keep rolling on the Hendrick train. I'm going to put William Byron. I think he might even be a tier B just because he's expensive at 10,300. I'd put him in kind of the A-. I always do this with a guy or two every week that they're kind of in between, but I'm going to bump him to the B. He's run up front here. I don't know if he'll quite run in the same echelon as these guys. With Hendrick, one of these guys is going to be bad fast. Probably more likely that it ends up being Larson. But I'm going to go Byron here.
Yeah, I don't mind that play at all. He was definitely who was next on my board. We got to throw Ross Chastain in there. Like, this is a little bit more of a human element play here, but I think the guy, he was doing his media tour this week. Like the dude is becoming a face of NASCAR, and whether we like it or not, man, Ross Chastain is scary fast at a lot of these tracks. In particular here, he hasn't had the best run at Darlington so far. But if you remember in that back, I think it was in the spring race last year, he was scary fast before he ended up dumping himself. So I think we're going to see a lot of speed out of that Trackhouse camp this week in particular. So I don't mind Ross Chastain at his price tag right now. Still a very solid driver for what he's giving you, about 43 DraftKings points each and every single week.
Chastain in the UPS Dale Jarrett throwback also. actually have UPS on the hood of that car, which is neat.
Yeah, that's gonna be crazy to see that back again. Plus, Ross Chastain running all 3 races this weekend too, so he's definitely
Triple duty. I knew he was in the trucks. I didn't realize he was Xfinity also.
Okay. Who's he in with Xfinity colleague?
I think he is running that 10 car. I'd have to go back.
Okay.
No,
Larson is in the 10, so
he's in the 91. Ross Chastain's in the 91 car.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah, so that he's not in the 10.
What team is the 91 car?
Hold on. Now you're gonna make me look. Give me 1 second.
Yeah.
While you're at it, throw Brad Keselowski up there as a tier B driver, and I say that because he's kind of a slept on guy as well. And Brad Keselowski is at $8,200. 2 of his last 3 races here have been 7th place finishes, and I'm telling you right now, he did that in the 6 car when he was atrocious last year in that 6 car, but he started to figure stuff out. And as far as active drivers are concerned on this track, he's definitely among the better ones in the active driver range. He's got 9 top 10 finishes, 5 top 5s, a win in 18 starts, 395 laps led altogether for Brad Keselowski. Again, he's not going to be somebody that I think a lot of folks are on, which I think gives you a leg up to try to kind of sneak him in to a tournament play. Just so that you can sort of differentiate yourself from everybody else. He is in the 91. I'm sorry, and that is a Mario Gosselin.
I see that now. That I forget that he runs for that team sometimes. That's the great thing about Chastain is some of these guys, they have their partnerships. If a Hendrick guy is going to run in the trucks, it's in the Spire car.
Yep.
They're doing the partnership with Colleague now, but normally they would run their own Xfinity cars the last couple of years of Junior Motorsports. Ross will race for anybody. He's going out there in Nice trucks still, and Mario Gosselin, DGM. He loves to race. He'll race anywhere. I'm assuming the triple duty will help him. You never quite know. 3 races in a weekend.
I like it. I like the triple duty. I think it at least gives you familiarity with the track. What it's going to be like. So yeah, I know different series, different car, but yeah, it matters to me.
Yeah, and it's fun to watch, and it could present the situation that Kyle Busch did a couple of times at Bristol, where if you run it perfectly enough and you sweep the weekend, it really is something special. I'm going to take a 2-for-1 here. Of course, you guys can still touch more on these drivers. I think Larson in the B, A- is good at 10,900. We don't need to talk any more about Hendrick really than we already have. And I'll stick on the Trackhouse track, for lack of a better term, and go with Daniel Suarez here at 7,900. Same sort of deal as Keselowski, a good price, and is going to run better than that. So he's a tier B for me this week.
Yeah, man. Suarez, he snuck into the top 10 here, I think, in the fall in the Southern 500. So he could be sneaky once again. Tried to bet against him last week. Did not go our way. Man, what about I think Austin Dillon belongs in this tier. I know we haven't talked much about that 3-car all season
Darlington
long.
might be one of his better tracks, honestly.
It is technically Austin Dillon is 6th among active drivers in finishing position here, 12.3, has a couple top 5s, has 5 top 10s. So yeah, I like Austin Dillon this week. I think it might be a little chalky. I don't think I'm the only person to know that. However, at his price tag right now, 7,000 flat. That's like as good as you get, I think, in the 7K range. So he's a B for me this week.
Yeah, I definitely can see that. Although I don't know, it still takes a lot for me to want to back Austin Dillon. It's just a tough sell because he breaks so many hearts. Like that's really the thing about him.
He did it he did it last week. He finally came through for us last week for a tenner. But yeah, I mean it is tough. It's tough to bet him. It's easier to play him in like DFS or fan tracks where you have to use so many people and
Yeah, for sure. All right, let's move down to tier C because I think Eric Jones is an intriguing tier C driver. We talked about it just before the show as far as where to place him. Obviously, legacy, not leaving a very good legacy to start their career in NASCAR. But I don't know. At some point, Eric Jones has got to get it done. This track has been very good to Eric Jones in the past, and that's even in his legacy car. He obviously won this race in the fall, right? He won the Cookout Southern 500. Before that was kind of bad. A 25th place finish, 32nd place, 18th. But in that 20 car, he was pretty solid, and he had what was it? 6 top 10 finishes and 5 top 5s in that span as well. So Eric Jones knows how to get around this track. All it's going to take for him is to figure it out again. And maybe he'll go back to last season's race, see what he did right, and right the ship, because again, it's not been a very good start to the season for the 43. But for Eric Jones, his price is at $7,100, and that is right in that price range that I love for a tier C driver.
Yeah, this is a good price range for Jones. I was going to talk about some of his odds a little later on the show. My thought process this morning, like I was talking about with you guys earlier, was, hey, I'm looking at these odds here. I'm thinking Eric Jones is probably going to be priced where Legacy's run most of this year, not where his track history was. And I was going to come into this show saying, Jones boy is your boy. He's at low odds. He runs well at Darlington. They're really heavily factoring in his track history, especially over on Caesars, where I normally end up looking first. And so now I'm pivoting to, I think this is a good price for Jones. Some of the other odds we'll look at later, I just don't like them. I think they have Jones overvalued for his track history and not for the car he's actually going to be driving, which I'll bring up with another driver later as a little bit of a teaser. But for Jones, at this price, sure. At some of the other odds, maybe not. I think C's the perfect place to put him this week.
Yeah, absolutely. Elliot, I think you're back up now.
Oh, yeah, very true. I will go with the 2311 train and Bubba Wallace. I think the Toyotas, again, they're going to run well here. Bubba ended up fourth, I think, last week, which, he probably had a little higher hopes for that race, but he ended up coming back up to finish there ahead of his teammate Tyler Reddick as well. Would have been the top Toyota if not for Denny Hamlin's win, of course. But I think Bubba, could get on a little bit of a hot streak, though. 8,600, I don't love that price. It's only just below Harvick and above guys like Blaney, Keselowski, and Barry as some of the comparables. Again, he's a good C guy. I don't love the numbers, but I think he'll run all right.
Yeah, I'm surprised we let Chris Bell fall this far, honestly, in that number 20 car. Talk about a guy who, I mean, he's hit or miss. Like he has the races like last week. We were on him. It didn't come to fruition. I've been wrong about Chris Bell more times than I've been right this season. However, I think it's a little bit of a get-right race from him. Normally when he has a shit-ass finish, he comes back the next race, has a better finish. Both top 6 finishes at this track last season. And let's not forget as well, top 5 speed rankings in both those races as well. So he's going to be fast this weekend. I don't love the price tag. Still a little bit inflated at 9,200, but I'm okay with riding him if I want to dive a little bit deeper in that top tier.
Like it. I'm scrolling around looking for Alex Bowman's price.
Bowman still is not racing. It is still
right.
Barry in the 48.
48 car. That's
big sad over here.
Yeah, big sad over there. Well, to throw Josh Berry up there anyways, because I think at $8,000, Josh Berry is shown a lot of grit in this series. I feel like he's turned a lot of heads, and he's earned himself a ride. I'll tell you that right now, for sure. So I just a matter of where he's going to be in that. Well, maybe not the 48, obviously, because they're going to have him. But yeah, I mean, I just think he's made enough noise. 3 top 10 finishes in his 7 starts so far. That's pretty good, especially considering he's still priced somewhere in that $8,000 range, which, is not a Hendrick type of a price for sure.
No, definitely not. He's definitely run. I mean, it's not the best runs. The run at Kansas for the 48 wasn't that great. Barry definitely overperforming that price most weeks. And it's definitely a big time fuck up if he's not one of those full-time entries next year in the Daytona 500. We're getting a sort of slimmer pickings here.
Yeah. I almost think we almost have to jump down to D. Like I feel like we're at a tier break here. Like there's, I don't know how many other.
So. Let's throw Blaney in tier C just because he ends up running, not as good as his price, but still better than, one of the shitters in the tier break here. Chris Buescher is the guy maybe you can argue for C or D also. He's at 7,600.
Been real consistent lately. Been real consistent. Yeah. Like I think he's like, oh man, I saw a stat on him earlier days that iFantasy Race put out, and it was something like just consistency. So yeah, I mean, you can make the case if you want to throw him in C, but I don't think he has.
If we feel like we're at a tier break here, let's throw him up in C, and then everyone else can kind of be one below that, and we can have Blaney and Buescher as kind of the C minuses.
Yeah, I like that. I'm gonna get a little weird here, boys. Man, I know, I don't want to ride this train. I know I was talking about it earlier, but I'm going Noah Gragson. Let's giddy up. Let's pony up here. And listen, dude just took a right hook, didn't get to throw a right hook back. dude hurt his manhood in that bowl cut a little bit. He's ready to bounce back from a personal standpoint. But also, like, let's not forget, this guy has 2 wins here in the Xfinity Series, 5 top 5s in his 6 Xfinity races as well. If you want to dip down, if you want to get weird and play Noah Gragson, like, there's no better time at 5,700 than this track. I think I'll at least have him in a couple lineups this week. Noah Gragson. And, like, also, if Eric Jones was good here as well, like, I think him and Jones are talking this week, obviously. Hey, what
trickle down effect?
Yeah, what did you learn last year? What can you rub off on me? So yeah, I like Noah Gragson this week, boys. I think he belongs here in this D's, and I would even maybe consider him a low price C. But yeah, Noah Gragson, boys, let's do it. Cheers.
If you're gonna go C, I would say C with a double minus at the end of it, or maybe a D plus. We can say
yes, yeah, for sure.
The grade for his haircut.
Oh man,
I know he lost.
It's not the haircut. It's the haircut and then going and getting in a fight a week later.
Yes.
Because that was not his best luck. If he was still rocking the mullet, that's a fight.
Yeah.
Not the coconut head bowl cut.
Rod, back to you.
All right, I'm going to make my co-host happy, and I'm going to throw up that 7 car up there.
Yes.
Stole my pick. That's exactly what I was going with next.
Same.
I'm telling you right now, he's averaging 32 fantasy points per race for a guy that doesn't necessarily get the finishes that most people feels like he deserves.
He's still priced like a 35th place car, and he ran 20th last week at Kansas.
That's what I'm saying. He's $5,400 for a guy whose average finishing position is 18.9. Not bad for that. You can look at his finishes. Like you said, last week at Kansas, he finished 20th, but he started 24th. Dover, he started 27th, finished 14th. Not a bad day there. Talladega, 34th, finished 25th, but probably could have had a better day at that. He finished started 35th at Bristol Dirt, finished 30th. Austin, 27th, finished 11th. Atlanta, 31st, finished 4th. I mean, he's not winning races. He's not really.
He's a hell of a lot better than he's priced, which is why he's perfect pickup.
Point differentials. Yeah, point differentials will get you home with Corey LaJoie.
This won't be the only time we talk about that number 7 this week, boys. I like him a lot. So I love that pick, Rod. Honest to God, if we ever get a Cup Series driver on this show, it's got to be Corey LaJoie. I mean, we talk about him more than I swear to God any other driver. So let's we'll get that email shot out here, Elliot, as you throw up your next driver here.
Yeah, we could stack some pennies and continue making co-hosts happy, because I'm going to throw Todd Gilliland here in driver D. You look again, it's the same sort of thing. He doesn't run well every week, and he's priced low, the 38, not the 34 set. But 34 can go up there too, 6,100. Yeah, keep him up there. We'll throw both the front row guys up there. 6,100 for McDowell and 5,500 for Gilliland, and they're both averaging somewhere around 24 to 28 fantasy points a week. They're good enough to keep half an eye on. Again, they're not cars that are going to run up front, win races that often, if ever, but they're interesting enough to at least put on the board here.
Yeah, and let's not forget McDowell actually had back-to-back top 10 finishes at Darlington last year. Like, he has a little bit of a niche for this track as well. Yeah. So yeah, I don't mind Michael McDowell. What's that price tag on DraftKings right now? It's decent, right? 6,100.
McDowell 6,100.
Yeah, like
500.
Like, this is, I will say, for everything that Darlington is, like, some of these scrappier drivers kind of just have a niche for it, like the Graysons, the McDowells, the Eric Jones. So yeah, I think you can see like an optimal lineup this week that will be a little bit weird. So I love that there. Dee saying get weird, Seth. She supports the call. D plus for sure for Noah Gragson. Man, I'm gonna go back here. I'm gonna do a couple here. I'm gonna throw out a couple. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. guy is still averaging over 36 DraftKings points per week, and he's actually pretty solid here. Last year had a top 10 here. I think he could get it done once again. He'll probably be a mid-pack guy. And then Ty Gibbs, 15th in his one Cup Series start here. Hasn't had much success in the Xfinity race, but at 7,700 on DraftKings, I think you can do a lot worse than Gibbs. Not as high as we were on him last week, but I still like the number 54 a little bit here. Rod, back to you. Is there anyone else you think belongs in this D tier before we get to the ship boxes at an F?
Not even a little. I mean, Ty Gibbs, I was going to comment that he fell so far from what we were expecting to, and it has been a rough few weeks for Ty Gibbs. So and his price just does not excite me. So yeah, this is definitely the right place for Ty Gibbs. I mean, other than God, I'm looking at the board. Amarola is probably, I don't think he belongs in the D. So, I mean, he's been burning us lately too, but I think it was bad luck last week that sort of did it. So yeah, I mean, Amarola, Briscoe, obviously you could probably just leave him down at the bottom. Don't even put it. Yeah.
7,300 higher than Jones, Austin Dillon, and Priest.
I can't do it. I can't do it. Yeah. Cindric too, man. Cindric. We tried to trust Cindric last week on a track he was good at. Again, it was some weird shit that happened to Cindric,
right,
but
it's not like he was running well when he blew a tire either. So.
No, and I mean, this is a guy who, I mean, dude, his average finish over the last like 8 weeks has been awful, like or deep into the 20s. So I agree. I want to get rid of that bad mojo. What about Justin Haley? Can anyone make a case for Justin Haley here? Because I sure can't. I mean, he has one top 5 here in the Xfinity series. That's all I got. But he did actually have a top 5 last year here as well. If we remember, he finished 3rd at this spring race. So, but when you look at the numbers, Rod, he wasn't a fast car. So he at least probably deserves to be an F or a D. But like, it was kind of a fluky finish for him.
I'm okay with an F here at 6,500. Allmendinger at 6,600. I don't know if I'm putting on the board. The one guy I'll talk about,
Ryan Newman.
That's exactly what I was going to bring up next. Is it's a true throwback race. Ryan Newman is in the 51 there, throwing it back to the Mobil 1 car. I think he's an F just to bring him up to say you probably shouldn't bet him, but you never know. He's priced at 5,800, which is ahead of Gregson, Gilliland, LaJoy, Burton, and your traditional bottom 3 shitters in Dillon, Poole, and BJ McLeod. It's interesting because maybe he's a brick wall that runs well enough and he finishes 29th, 5 laps down, and ends up, blocking a bunch of other guys behind him, like typical Ryan Newman way is. It's good to see him in the series. It's good to see somebody relevant in a wear car, but still a wear car. You color a shitbox like the old Mobil 1 Penske car, it's still a shitbox on the inside. So it would be fun to see him back out there, but I don't see any net positive to Ryan Newman this week.
This is what I'll say about Ryan Newman this week. In his last 5 starts here at the Too Tough to Tame, 5 top 20s. 1 top 10. Okay. Like he's consistent. Like there's a world where he finishes in the top 20, and for a Rick Ware car, like
I agree. In that world is probably the same world that Eric Jones wins this race and McDowell finishes 2nd, but you never know.
I also will throw Ryan Priest in the F tier. Dude's been respectable, has a 12th place finish here at Darlington as well in his career. Limited starts in the Cup Series and shit equipment. So yeah, I think that's everyone on the board. Elliot, give your 2 cents on the rest of these no need to be named guys.
Yeah, the only 2 guys we haven't mentioned, Harrison Burton, and it's the same story on Harrison Burton every week, and Brendan Poole in the 15. Again, Rick Ware going with some higher upside drivers, still not high upside enough to make them worth betting anywhere other than super speedways. But hey, Brendan Poole and Ryan Newman is an infinitely better lineup than the old dude who used to drive the 51, putting your kid in the car, and freaking JJ Yaley in the 15. So I'll take it.
Hey, JJ Yaley, man, start P4 this year at Bristol Dirt.
Right at the dirt track, which we're not doing anything close to that again this year. Come back to Chicago Street Course, the next unique race.
Yeah.
Yaley's going in. Or set in that car for the Street Course.
Ooh, yeah, there you go.
We'll talk about that later.
If they
not the 2018 F1 champion, just JJ Yaley.
Nice Fox graphical error because Bristol Dirt was the week after Jensen Button was in that car. If you didn't see that. But yeah, they left it JJ Yaley, and the stat underneath was still 2009 F1 World Champion. So.
Poor JJ, man. He just needs to go back in that Kellogg's car, right where he belongs, man. Those are the good old days for JJ.
The Interstate Batteries car.
Oh, that's what it was. Sorry, number 5. I wasn't at a 5 or 18. No, it was an 18.
You're thinking Kyle Busch went from the Kellogg's 5 to the 18 after Yaley left as a result of Dale Jr. looking throwing KFB. They're on the right track, but you just needed to connect a couple more wires.
Yeah, it's throwback week, man. We got
those throwbacks in the mind for sure.
Absolutely, yeah. Let's round it out here. What do you say, Elliot? Throw a little betting out there.
Let's roll with the parking garage props. Alrighty, like we've been saying, we're certainly hoping this week goes a little better. Like I said, I didn't necessarily love the books, but we do have a couple of decent things here, Seth.
Yeah, we're gonna start out with the winners, pole position bets, kind of how we're feeling that whole market. And I'm gonna go right back to the well with Kyle Busch this week. Fastest median lap, as we talked about earlier, at the Southern 500, more than a tenth better than any other driver. Led 155 laps in that race before an engine failure. Oh, what did he do in the other race as well? Number one in total speed ranking that day. So I think he's going to be good there. I think he was good at Auto Club. He won Auto Club, had top two speed. So at plus 1100, I think you can get a worse number on Kyle Busch, and I wouldn't be shocked if he goes out, qualifies in those top 2 or 3 rows, and this number is a lot shorter on Sunday. So I'm just trying to beat the market here a little bit and get on some rowdy while I can. Rod, anything in the outright market that you're eyeing up, jonesing to get on?
So listen, it's not a popular opinion, but I do like Martin Truex to win this race. Actually, we talked about him at length earlier when we were talking about the tiers. It just feels like he's got it back again, right? I mean, last season there was a lot of off-track distractions that we didn't know about until going into the off-season. Now that those are no longer there, he just looks like a completely different driver. And now that he's won a race, that's contagious, right? Come back and win another one. Especially on a track that he has been pretty good at over the course of his career. So I do like it. His number is at plus 700 to win this race. Okay. So it's a pretty good price for Martin Truex Jr.
Yeah. I think he's another one who could come out, could have a really good average start here. So yeah, I don't mind that play at all. I'm also going to go with Tyler Reddick this week. And we already kind of touched about how this track really just fits his driver style, man. He wants to run up high. He wants to get a little dirty. He wants to get some of those racing stripes on his car. So I'm expecting him to have a similar finish to what he did last year, where he was second and third in these 2 races at Darlington. And he's also been the second fast driver on the season to average late in a run. All the tracks, he's been the fastest as we get later in a run. And this is a high tire wear track. So I think he's going to be someone who gets better as the track goes along. Hopefully we get some long green flag runs. But I like Tyler Reddick here a lot. Elliot, any thoughts on this? Reddick obviously being one of the top in driver average as well, 11.1 here over his 6 starts.
Yeah, that's not a bad number for Reddick. I mean, we talked about it while the Toyotas are. Tyler Reddick ripping the wall is always a good thing. He could be very intriguing at that number.
Rod, any thoughts on Reddick or anyone else in the outright market before practice and qualifying that you're getting down on?
So I don't know. Reddick is such a tough guy for me to gauge because, again,
he is tough. Yeah.
Like you want to think, and he is a good driver, but he just makes so many mistakes too and again, being aggressive on this track is a mixed bag. I mean, it works until it doesn't. And so hopefully it works for him, especially in this 45. I don't know if you like sprinkling something on another guy, bring up Harvick at 14-1 again for another one. I listed off all of those top 10 finishes. We counted him out so many times last season, and then he comes back and wins back-to-back races. So is this the one where he punches through? I don't know, but I'm willing to take a risk on it at 14-1 when some of these other guys are a lot shorter.
Elliot, are we going to regret if we don't get on Chase Elliott 14-1? That's the one question I want to pose to you, because I went back and forth with it all day. I threw him on the thumbnail this week. And the issue is, like, over his last 7 starts here at this track, 20.1 is his average finish. Again, there's been some bad luck. He's got dumped sometimes he shouldn't have been dumped. But is this like the last time we're ever going to see a 14-1 for Chase Elliott? Because, like, my heart wants me to go with it, but my mind and the data says don't go with it.
Yeah, I don't think it'll be the last time, but you definitely don't get the number often, so it really is worth considering. At the end of the day, I'm okay passing on it. Maybe throw a very small sprinkling on it just because it's a rare number to see. Normally Chase is up there as one of your favorites. But I think that Chase is going to continue to get these numbers until he gets across the line first in a race to clinch that playoff spot, or at least consistently have top 5 runs, which he's not quite been doing since his return from injury.
Yeah. So I'll also be taking the top 5 on Kyle Busch and Tyler Reddick, as I usually do with those outright plays. Anything from you boys in the outright market that before we jump into the placement props for tonight? Okay. All right. So I'm going to start us out with a little weird one. We talked about him earlier, and we're going big game hunting once again. Saddle up. Let's go. Corey LaJoie, 10-1 for a top 10. That's at Caesars. I normally don't get more favorable odds on top 10s at Caesars rather than Barstool or some of these other books we're using, some of the locals. But we did this week. 10-1 for a top 10 here. And this, like, the reason I'm in on Corey LaJoie this week, I know it sounds like a weird bet, but he's going to be in the car twice this weekend. He's running his first truck race since 2014 in that Spire truck. So I'm excited to see that. And also, like, this has been just a shit show of a race the last 2 times we were here. Carnage-filled races, an average of 10 drivers per race DNF'd back in 2022 in both races. We saw guys like McDowell have a top 10 here twice last season. Justin Haley was a third-place car. It's not crazy to think Corey LaJoie, who finished 14th at Auto Club, the closest comp we have this season, was 13th in total speed ranking at Auto Club as well. It's not crazy to think that he could pull out a top 10 here. 11th at Dover, which was another unique track, and he was running in the top 15 last week before a 20th finish. So Corey LaJoie at 10-1 for a top 10. I know it's a long shot. I'm going half a unit on it. So saddle me up, boys. Corey LaJoie, number 7 Spire, baby.
That is pretty good. I was finding that some of the middling top 10 numbers were better at Barstool than Caesars, normally the 2 that I look at. I should probably diversify. When we see guys like Rory bring up something like Betfred, like what the fuck is Betfred, first of all? But we could diversify the books a little bit, see what else is around in PA. But the big books, they have some better numbers on Eric Jones, 215 for a top 10, and Ty Gibbs plus 200. Again, they're not quite the long shots. Maybe we don't love those numbers. I think that they're worth a shot on. I love my plus money. Those aren't too bad there to consider, I feel like.
It's funny though, because all the top 10 bets normally are not all that great, especially as you start getting up into the ones with consistent top 10. So I take, taking a stab at a Corey LaJoie top 10 wouldn't hurt at 10-1. I'm looking at Logano as a top 5. He's at plus 140 for a top 5, and top 5 numbers are almost as sickening as top 10 numbers in some cases. But we talked about Logano a little bit earlier in that, the defending champion has just been such an up and down season for Logano. It's so hard to just wrap your head around how inconsistent he's been this season. He's finished 37th. He's finished 7th, 2nd, like 6th last week. And it's just been all over the place for Joey Logano. But again, he did win this race last season. So I'm not too far removed from seeing him maybe do that again. And I'm actually seeing there's a book, look out there. It could be in your area, called Superbook. And I'm seeing right now a Joey Logano top 3 line at plus 500. So I'm pretty intrigued by that as well.
Again, just picking these random books out of thin air, but hey, you take the good odds wherever you can get them.
Yep.
Here's my one question to you guys, and I just want to be completely transparent. I don't want to hide anything here, but can we be honest about the Fords right now? They just don't seem like they can keep up. Like Joey Logano, I agree with you, Rod. My research, it all pointed me. He was high in my model when it all came out, but it's so hard for me to back any Ford. Kevin Harvick's fantastic. Joey Logano is fantastic. There are a lot of good Ford drivers, and it just doesn't seem like they show up each and every single week, and they're just not getting enough out of these cars. And that's why I struggle to bet Joey Logano. And I've done it this season. It's paid off sometimes. It hasn't other times. But that's just my take on it. Is I mean, look at our tiers, man. How many Fords were in the top 10? One, two. Well, Kevin Harvick always is when you're
Kevin Harvick is almost an exception to the rule at this point. And talking about how the Fords have not been great, that does remind me of a stat I actually threw in the chat to kind of start the week. This is from Trey Ryan 99 on Twitter, pointing out that Ford, out of the 12 races this year, they only won 1 time. And it's their worst start to a year since 2010. They went winless in the first 20 races that year. So this is not just bad for Ford. This is a historically bad season so far for Ford in terms of parking it in victory lane.
Yeah. Want to shout out Derek in the chat. What's up, Derek? Thanks for joining us tonight, man. He's questioning the LaJoie pick a little bit.
This dude somehow ends up, close to the top 10 more often than we expect.
Yeah, that was kind of my point there. So 100%. I just before we get out of placement props, you brought it up, Elliot, and I looked at it right before the show, but I didn't get to dive deep enough into it. Rod, can you talk me into the Eric Jones plus 215 top 10, because it does feel like a very fair number for a guy who won the Southern 500 last season. However, legacy has just been so terrible all season.
Well, and that's what I was telling you too earlier about Eric Jones. It just, instinctively, you don't want to bet on Eric Jones because of what you've seen this season. But like I said, in the 20 car, he got it done, right? 2017, 5th place, 2018, 8th place. He won in 2019. He finished 5th in 2020 and then 4th in 2020. And then he switched to the 43 car, 3 terrible finishes in a row to start that run, 18th, 32nd, and 25th. But one, he had an engine, and the second he crashed out of it. But then he won last season rather, in the fall race. So, I mean, sometimes drivers need to just get their sea legs underneath them. Now, the only thing, again, that's stopping it is the fact that we've seen Legacy. The only thing they can do well is grab Ross Chastain after a race. So, we'll see.
Closer to the Legacy Lawnmower Club this year than the Legacy Motor Club.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was 19th. He was 19th at Auto Club as well. So the one comp track we have, like, it wasn't terrible. So I'm probably going to sprinkle it now, honestly. Like, I probably am going to do a little bit of a sprinkle as we kind of sit here. But I appreciate you guys talking that out with me. Let's go ahead. Let's move out of placement props. Let's move to head-to-head groups, specials, anything we're feeling here. Elliot, I want to kick it off with you. Anything that you're seeing in these markets we should be considering?
There's a couple I just put up on Barstool here. If you're big on Legacy, which I'm not, I just called them lawnmowers. If you're big on Legacy, if you think Jones and Gregson are going to have good runs, there's some matchups there. The first one I really don't like because it's Jones plus 170 against Christopher Bell at minus 225. That one, with how well Bell normally runs, even though we left him late in our tiers.
You're hoping for chaos at that. You're hoping people wreck out if you take that. But it could hit.
And the second one, again, we're higher on Trackhouse this week than normal. It's Noah Gragson plus 170 against Daniel Suarez, minus 225. That one is tougher because Gragson has run worse than Jones. Suarez has run worse than Bell. I like that the odds are about the same. I'm debating talking myself into this one. But again, I don't know how high I am on Legacy. Still kind of working that out. I'd love to see what these odds are after practice and qualifying if these guys end up qualifying better than we expected.
Who's that one against Almirola?
It's Gragson against Suarez. So it's a tough one.
Again, last 6 races in the Xfinity Series for Grayson, 6 top 10s, 5 top 5s, 2 wins. So you can talk yourself into it a little bit.
That's in one of the 5 best Xfinity cars, at least in previous years, rather than normally a 23rd place car, we'll say.
Yeah. I mean, he led a lot of laps too. 253 laps led in his last 6 races here. So I think I actually will talk myself into probably laying a little bit in that as well.
I have one more before we move on, and it's I just saw Kyle Busch minus 105 against Byron, who's a minus 122.
I've seen it. I've seen people on both sides of this. I think Skybox NASCAR on Derek's show last night was on the Byron side. Phil wasn't too happy about it. A little discourse going back and forth. Rod, how do you feel about this one? Because this is one I don't think I want to bet just because Byron has been so fast this year, but I do like Busch more.
I won't touch this one because I can see either thing happening. And as far as Kyle Busch having the week that he had last week, I mean, we always talked about a pissed off Kyle Busch on our show. I mean, this is about to be a pissed off Kyle Busch this week and on a track that he's been good at. And Byron has not necessarily been all that great on this track as a Cup driver. So the stats don't bear out necessarily him being a driver that you really want to back on this track. Surprisingly enough, with all that William Byron does in 9 races, he's only got 3 top 10 finishes on this track. And last season it was a 13th and an 8th place finish. So yeah, I could see Kyle Busch coming out on top of this one.
Okay. Rod, anything else here in the head-to-head group specials that you're looking at that we haven't touched on?
So I talked about Superbook, right? Go find Superbook because Superbook is the only book that is offering you plus money on Denny Hamlin over Kyle Larson. And they've got Denny Hamlin.
Plus money on that. Oh my God.
Plus 100 for Denny Hamlin, minus 120 with Kyle Larson. The same bet on Caesars is minus 105 for Denny, minus 125 for Larson. And then on Barstool, it's minus 103 for Hamlin, minus 129 for Larson. So this bet, I mean, it's Hamlin all the way for me. I know, like I said, I talked about Chevy not being the dominant manufacturer on this track. And if we think Denny's going to win this race, then he finishes better than Kyle Larson right off the bat. And go get it at plus money, at plus 100 over there on Superbook.
Okay, Seth, I have bad news for us. Well, first I looked up Superbook.
I did as well. I just looked it up.
Superbook and I see Christian Broadcasting Network and a bunch of religious stuff.
Ooh.
So then I had to do Superbook betting.
Yes.
It's available in these states. It says Arizona, Colorado, Iowa, Maryland, Nevada, New Jersey, Ohio, and Tennessee. Coming soon, Indiana, Louisiana, and Virginia. That's not a Pennsylvania on there. Seth, I think we're out of luck unless we want to make a run to the Ohio border before Sunday.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, man. Ohio, they just, recently legalized sports betting, but like they're doing an awesome job. They have Betfred, I think they have a couple of these other locals that we have here closer to Pennsylvania as well. So yeah, congrats to Ohio, man. They're fucking kicking ass right now. 100%. All right. I'm going to do it. I'm going to back more RCR. More RCR love this week. Let's do it. Yeah, put your hands up. Let's party.
We can do Betfred in Pennsylvania. I just saw something.
Yes.
I think that app is going on my phone as soon as we wrap up here.
Yes, I am also engaged with Betfred already. Great book. Plus 120, Austin Dillon versus Josh Berry here. And this is over at Caesars, so you can get this anywhere. You don't have to be in Pennsylvania or our friends over in Ohio. But listen, Josh Berry, I like Josh Berry a lot. He's only raced 4 times here in his career, 3 Xfinity, 1 truck. And this is a place where I want experience. And Austin Dillon, AD baby, he has that experience. 6th best average finish among active drivers here, 12.3. We touched on that earlier. Top 20 in 12 of his last 13 races. So he's consistent. He's going to get you a top 20 at least, maybe a top 10, and a 38.5 top 10 rate as well throughout his career. I mean, last year, 9th.
I like it. I think if this was Dillon versus Bowman, I still would probably take the Dillon side.
Yeah, I mean, at plus 120, I feel like you can't go wrong with it. Dillon just got a top 10. He's a little bit on a roll. Like, it is hard to bet Austin Dillon sometimes. Like, I'm not going to tell you it's my favorite thing to fucking do is bet Austin Dillon. But, like, when I see a value like this against an inexperienced driver at a track that I want experience about, I'm about it. So, yeah, give me a little AD plus money here. Derek saying in the chat, Betfred, Wind Creek NPA is an excellent book if you need a new book to deposit into.
He put the thought in my head with the Betfred there. I think that's not a bad one.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Rod, Elliot, anything else here in the head-to-head groups or specials? Because that's all me, other than the couple the legacy bets you guys talked me into already.
No, I mean, other than, if you wanted to do something silly, like take Truex over Larson as well. Truex is at plus 110.
Okay.
So Larson's minus 130 over there. So I'm
get a little silly. Rod's getting a little silly this week.
Little Gibbs over Larson. That's what I like.
Awesome. Elliot, what do you have for us? Anything?
I don't have anything that really stood out. Manufacturer stuff looks pretty normal. Ty Gibbs top Toyota plus 1,500. Maybe throw that out there for Ty Gibbs. Yeah.
I wanted it last week.
Everything else looks pretty standard. Normally I look for something that we can go for. I'm sure Caesars has a couple of, this guy and this guy with an odds boost.
Yeah.
I'm looking on Barstool,
I will say that there is an odds little boost there. Caesars is doing something in related to the bracket contest. They've got a little 3-leg parlay that they've made out of some of their head-to-heads. Where they've got Ross Chastain over Daniel Suarez, Larson over Hamlin. So if you think that I'm wrong and Larson's going to finish over Hamlin, you could take that. And then Byron over Reddick. That comes out to a cool plus 411 if you take all 3 of those.
Cool. Yeah, very cool. Very cool.
Like neat. I just pulled that up and I can talk myself into all 3 of those.
I personally can't. I'm too high on some of the other drivers in that. But either way, guys, thank you so much for a great episode. Thank you to everyone who tuned in. If you guys are new, please subscribe to the channel. If you guys enjoy this type of content, come back, hang out with us every single Thursday night, 8:30 p.m. Eastern time. Of course, we have our fantasy football show and our PGA and DFS show as well over there. That's a really fun experience to get there on Tuesday nights. Rod, where can we find you, man? You're always here every other week on the back road. And then what else are you getting into over there with Cody?
Absolutely. Yeah. Follow us in the NASCAR gambling podcast space over there on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. Just find it on Spotify, on YouTube. Now we're here. So as soon as you're done, just look for NASCAR Gambling Podcast. You'll see me and my buddy Cody Zeeb as we chop it up every single day. We've got the truck episode coming out tonight. Tomorrow we got DFS. We have the Cup and Xfinity as well. So all kinds of good stuff happening there. And and I'm on with you guys every other Thursday, having fun.
Awesome.
Gonna be more grateful to have you every other Thursday, Ron, for sure.
Awesome. And before we close up, I just want to say in general, like I really appreciate this NASCAR gambling DFS space out here. There are so many good people to connect with. Derek in the chat's been an awesome friend and person to connect with. He has the NASCAR betting preview show on Wednesday nights, which is just a Twitter Spaces. It's good. You're going to laugh. You're going to have a great time. So make sure you're following him at Derek Yoder on Twitter as well. And just get involved with this space, man. It is so fun, such a welcoming space. So I'm excited to be here with you guys. Elliot, bring us home, baby.
This was certainly a fun one. It's going to be a fun race weekend in Darlington. Best of luck on all your bets. And we're going to be back for even more fun because it's the All-Star race from North Wilkesboro next time around. I'm excited to see what our comps are going to be for a place that hasn't been run since before I think you and I were even born, Seth. So that's going to be a real fun one. But anyway, let's not get ahead of ourselves. Best of luck with Darlington. Thanks for rolling down the back road with us. And we'll be back same time, same place next week.